Hello, it's me, Joy, the Joy of Harlem. I'm taking a little stroll. Just wanted to let you know about my day. I spent the morning with Rosanna, Scotto and Stokes and was interviewed about what's going on. Now, really, the Comptroller of New York City thinks that Airbnb is causing the problems and the rise in rent. We don't really think so. And I wonder why he's only picking on Airbnb. We gotta dig into that. But let me put that video so you can see us and see how colorful you are. Right about there.
Thank you. Well, the short-term rental market is bracing for an all-out war. The City Council is working on a bill right now that would force Airbnb hosts to share their names, their addresses, and whether they are renting out a room or the entire apartment with the mayor's office.
So joining us right now is Josh Meltzer. He heads up New York policy for Airbnb. And Joy Williams. She's an Airbnb host. Nice to have you both here.
Good morning.
So are you the reason why our rents are going up in New York City? I'm looking at you, Josh.
I think there are a lot of reasons. As a longtime New Yorker, I don't think Airbnb becomes close to making the list of reasons why the city is becoming more expensive.
Well, Scott Stringer, the city controller, he did this big survey using AirDNA's information,
Right.
and he claims that Airbnb is part of the reason why rents have gone up.
Yeah, I mean, I think that report has been pretty thoroughly debunked at this point. I think, you know, the major newspaper editorial boards came out and dismissed the methodology, the conclusions, even the data itself.
That he wasn't reading it correctly.
Or that he sort of cherry-picked the data in a certain way or crafted the methodology in a certain way to reach a conclusion that was convenient. Right?
He says that basically you're kind of getting that information out there because you have big money lobbyists trying to discredit his report.
I've heard that, and it's a nice talking point, but the fact is, you know, even when the source of data even says this is not right, you misinterpreted the data that you got from us, you have to really look at what's going on here, and the fact that the Comptroller is leaning in to the report and not at all disavowing it or retracting it suggests to me that there's some other intention driving it. And you know, it seems to me that he's sort of speaking to an audience of one with this report, and it's the hotel industry.
The hotel industry.
That's right.
Which has supported him.
That's right.
And a lot of city council members as well in New York City.
That's right. They're a very politically powerful unit in New York City and New York State, and for someone who's been a longtime politician like the Comptroller and who has political ambitions, currying favor with this industry is not necessarily a surprise, but I think it's doing a disservice to New Yorkers, and it's certainly not helping a complicated policy issue like home sharing reach a resolution that works for New Yorkers.
All right, Joy, let's talk to you about this. First of all, what are your feelings about this legislation having to divulge your name, your address, if it's a room, if it's the entire apartment? You're longtime hosts already.
Well, I think that the city is being disingenuous about what it's actually doing. I think that so many of us as hosts already are getting visits from the Office of Special Enforcement, Fire Department, Police Department, and the
They already do this?
They already do this. So I've been visited twice by them and have fined
Without any warning?
Without any by them. So I think that they're aggressive about doing this, and I know that I've been advocating for home sharing and fair rules for some time.
So what do you do with Joy? Do you rent out a room, part of the whole apartment? What do you do?
I own a 3-family building, which I have every right to rent out those other units, and my mortgage was based on the fact that I would be receiving that income. The issue is that I can't rent, according to the city, for 21 days or less. So on day 30, the very same apartment is available, and it's fine, but 29 days or less is the problem. So I do it for a number of reasons. One, I am working on my own business, and I use the extra money that I'm getting to help fund my own business. And then two, I had 3 tenants who are, as we call them, are professional tenants, and who I had to evict, and all total they owe me $30,000. I have outstanding judgments that are uncollectible. So With Airbnb, with this short-term rental, I don't have that problem. And people that stay on day 30, I can't get them out if there's a problem, if there's non-payment, if they've overstayed their lease, until I take them to court, and that is a long, protracted problem.
And Josh, you've also said this really kind of comes down to those responsible hosts and the ones that are bad actors.
That's right. And Joy lives in that building. I mean, she's a longtime resident of Harlem. You know, she is, as she said, doing this to make money, to start her business, to maintain her business. We see Joy as an example of a responsible host.
And what's an example of the bad actor?
The bad actor is when you, in our opinion, when you have these landlords who warehouse big buildings with lots of long-term spaces that would be available for rent, and you essentially incentivize them to use platforms like Airbnb, like VRBO, like HomeAway to game the system and run 24/7 illegal hotels. We fully support intensive crackdown on that behavior. And the other thing that we support, I would say, is people who carve up homes and create unsafe, unhealthy spaces. So, you know, even though it may be legal, according to state law, to rent one single-family home, the entire space, when we find somebody who has carved that space up into, you know, 8 different rooms and is trying to pack in, you know, 20 people, we remove that listing from the platform. And we've removed over 5,000 listings from the platform at this point.
Josh, I know you can't have eyes in the back of your head, but I mean, there are some people, including our producer of this show, who lives in a small apartment building, and she says, you know, somebody rents out their apartment to Airbnb, and there are people that she doesn't know in and out of her building, and she's concerned for her safety.
Yeah, I think if you put the proper regulations in place, that doesn't occur, right? There's a bill that we support at the state level, introduced in both the Assembly and the Senate, that would allow responsible people to host, but would require them to register so that, you know, the city can monitor the activity. It would allow for platforms like Airbnb to collect and remit taxes so that the revenue generated by home sharing goes back into city and state coffers.
But that would call for them to negotiate with you.
That's right.
And that's not going to happen.
You have to sit at the table. You have to have this conversation. You have to have a real delineation about the responsible hosts and the bad actors, set up fair rules that are clear to everyone, and then enforce based on those rules, and that's not what's happening right now.
Josh Meltzer, thank you so much, head of New York City policy for Airbnb. Joy Williams, an Airbnb host, thank you so much for sharing your story with us this morning. And obviously, I mean, you do it because you want to make ends meet, right?
Exactly,
Right.
yes.
Yeah, okay.
You're a shining example of what Airbnb is talking about.
We'll talk about it later. Bye-bye.